Wolf Productions presents Sherlock Holmes in The Hound of the Baskervilles. The year 1889. The place 221B Baker Street, London. We find Watson returning to the rooms which he shares with his old friend, Sherlock Holmes. Holmes! Are you there?
My first impression as I opened the door was that fire had broken out. But the room was so filled with smoke that the light from the lamp on the table was obscured by it. As I entered, however, my fears were put at rest. For it was only the acrid fumes of strong, coarse tobacco which took me by the throat and set me coughing. Through the haze, I had a vision of Holmes in his dressing gown, curled up in his armchair, his black clay pipe between his lips.
Caught cold, Watson?
No! It's just this poisonous atmosphere.
I suppose it is a bit thick, now that you mention it.
Thick! It is intolerable.
Well, open the window then. You've been to your club, I see.
Good heavens! How did you know?
Furthermore,
You've met a one-legged cabman. A pronounced Romanian accent. My dear Holmes.
am I right?
Yes, but how?
There is a delightful freshness about you, Watson, which makes it a pleasure for me to exercise any small powers which I may possess at your expense. I think we'll close that window now, if you don't mind. It is a singular thing, but I find a concentrated atmosphere helps a concentration of thought. I've not pushed it to the length of getting into a box to think. Still, that is the logical outcome of my conviction. Have you turned the case over in your mind, Watson? Watson? I have thought about it a good deal during the course of the day. What do you make of it?
Well, I find
points of distinction about it. That change in the footprints, for example. What do you make of that?
Sir Henry said his father walked on tiptoe.
He only repeated what some fool said at the inquest. Why should a man walk on tiptoe out on the moor?
What then?
He was running, Watson. Running desperately. Running for his life. Running till he burst his heart. And fell dead upon his face.
Running? From what?
There, my dear Watson, lies our problem. We return now to our story. Watson has been sent by Holmes to the lonely moors of Devonshire to investigate.
In the evening, I put on my waterproof and walked far upon the sodden moor, full of dark imaginings. The wind whistling about my ears. Presently, my thoughts were interrupted by the sound of running footsteps behind me.
You'll of course excuse my presumption, Dr. Watson. I am Stapleton of Mediput House.
Good God, Stapleton! What was that?
Queer place, the moor.
Yes, very quick. What was it?
Well, the peasants say it is the cry of the hound of the Baskervilles, calling for its prey.
You're an educated man. Surely you don't believe such twaddle as that.
Bogs make queer noises sometimes. It's the water rising or the mud settling or something.
No. That was a living voice.
Well, perhaps it was. All things are possible on the moor. I don't suppose you ever did happen to hear a bittern booming.
A bittern booming.
Quite so. It's a very rare bird, you know. They say it is nearly extinct. Anything's possible on moor. Yes.
I should not be surprised. To learn what we've heard is the cry of the last of the bitterns. And now, if you'll excuse me, I'll be going off. I had but a moment to reflect on this rather doubtful theory when I heard the sound of graceful footsteps behind me, and upon turning, found a woman near me on the path. I could not doubt that this was Miss Stapleton, for ladies of any sort must be very rare upon the moor. Go back! Go back! She cried. But I've only just come. Go straight back to London, instantly! I could only stare at her in stupid surprise. But why did I go back? I cannot explain. Hush, Sir Henry is coming. Not a word of what I've said. Sir Henry grabbed my sleeve. His face glimmered white in the darkness.
My God, Watson. What was that?
That's a sound they have here on the moor, evidently. Stapleton said it was the calling of some strange bird. If you want my opinion, it sounded more like a hound.
A hound? My God! Can there be some truth to these stories? Is it possible that I'm in danger from so dark a curse? What do the folk in the countryside call it, Watson? Tell me, Watson!
Well, they're ignorant people. But they say it is the cry of the Hound of the Baskervilles.
We return now to the third and final act of tonight's story. Holmes and Watson are now reunited on the moor. It is a dark and moonless night. They are waiting for Sir Henry.
Over the great Grimpen Mire, there hung a dense white fog. It was drifting slowly in our direction and banked up on that side of us like a wall. Low, but thick and well-defined. I looked at Holmes. Something was troubling him.
That fog, Watson. It's moving towards us.
Is that serious?
Very serious indeed. The one thing upon earth which could have disarranged our plans.
Hist! Look out! It's coming! It was then that we saw it. The dreadful shape sprang out upon us out of the shadows of the fog. Sir Henry began running towards us desperately, his eyes wide with horror. A hound it was. An enormous coal-black hound. But not such a hound as mortal eyes have ever seen. Fire burst from its open mouth. His eyes glowed with a smoldering glare. Never in the delirious dream of a disordered brain could anything more savage, more appalling, more hellish be conceived in that dark form and savage face which broke out upon us out of the shadows of the fog. It leaped straight for Sir Henry's throat. But in the very next instant, Holmes had emptied 5 barrels of his revolver into the creature's flank. And with a last howl of agony and a vicious snap in the air, it rolled upon its back, its feet pawing furiously, and then fell limp upon its side. Sir Henry lay where he had fallen. What was it?
Whatever it was, it's dead. And now, Watson, we've had some weeks of severe work. I think that for one evening, we may turn our thoughts into more pleasant channels. Norman Aruda's giving a violin recital at Halle's. Her attacks and her bowings are splendid. What's that little thing of Chopin's? She plays so magnificently. Tra-la-dee, tra-la-dee. What is it? What is it, Mozart?